Trey Lance, as we talked about earlier, 318 pass attempts is the fewest for a first-round QB in the history of the NFL. Who was second as far as a first-round QB? It's a tough one, okay? It's a tough one. Yep.
Hang on.
Hang
on. No, don't give me a hint.
Okay,
don't give me a hint. Tim Tebow.
Oh, that's a good guess, though. That's a good guess. It's Michael Vick. And then that's followed by Mark Sanchez. But I like where you were thinking there. You're right. I mean, think about a quarterback that's running and doing that type of stuff, all that. But the big thing
played
is
4 years.
Played
That's
4
what screwed
years.
it up.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I just wanted to mention Tim Tebow because I knew Matt Casey would want me to mention Tim Tebow today.
Well, oddly enough.
I'm glad that what comes through this can't be picked up by the microphone.
Oddly enough, my first pick of the draft for the big Kahuna's draft, this guy's idol growing up was Tim Tebow, and that is Trey Lance. I don't care. Pick number 3 is the big Kahuna pick of the draft for me. Yes, you know it. With all the scrutiny around who should you pick, what should you do, I don't know. And you picked a guy that hasn't played a lot of football, played 1 AA football, added on top of that, hasn't had a ton of reps throwing the football and all that. So that to me was the big Kahuna pick of the draft right there, because that's something that, of course, Shanahan, Lynch, their names are going to be tied to this forever. There's no doubt about that. So I'm interested to see, where this goes and how Trey Lance develops going forward.
Yeah, look, what made it even more Kahuna-ish, the idea that they
all the stuff
kind of reveled in the uncertainty and
the Rodgers
everybody,
stuff.
We got this 3rd overall pick, and we called the Packers about Aaron Rodgers and leading people to believe it was Mac Jones. That was all gratuitous. That was all unnecessary. They were not going to get leapfrog for Trey Lance. It was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and then the 49ers controlled the board. That's why they moved up there.
That's where I don't still believe it was. I don't believe it was originally for Trey Lance. That's where I don't believe it. I still think it was Mac Jones because they were worried about New England and Carolina, and I think that Shanahan's mind was changed somewhere in the process. I am still a believer that trade was made to get Mac Jones originally.
And Chris, we've now seen twice in 4 years, someone in that organization has the ability to get Kyle Shanahan to change his mind, because he was all in on Kirk Cousins 2018, and I know maybe they weren't going to get him, but if they're determined to get him, they're going to get him. He didn't get much more in free agency than they paid Jimmy Garoppolo to keep him around.
Right.
But they got him to pivot to Garoppolo. Somebody said the right thing at the right time to get him to pivot to Garoppolo, even though he'd never worked with Garoppolo, even though Garoppolo had a hard time staying healthy through 4 opportunities in 2016. He got injured in game 2. And now, if it's true that he wanted Mac Jones initially, somebody got him to pivot toward Trey Lance. So there's somebody in that organization that knows how to push the buttons just right of Kyle Shanahan to make him come to the conclusion that someone else wants him to come to.
Yeah, maybe, Mike. I mean, you're right. The Garoppolo thing with the Cousins thing, listen, I don't know the whole story there. I can at least say at a base level and back at the time a little bit, I think they were 0-10. They were panicked a little bit, like, oh, man, in our first year, are we going to go 0-16? And I think they felt like they didn't have a quarterback on the roster that could actually win them a football game. So I think maybe that's where they rushed to judgment on the Jimmy Garoppolo thing and got that going. That's what I believe happened really there, and I can understand that for where they were at that point. But you're right, Mike. I don't know. Somebody's got Shanahan's ear for sure in that organization.
Well, for me, the ultimate Kahuna move last night, 4 years after getting burned by trading up and taking a quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky, Ryan Pace does it again, trading up even more, giving up next year's first-round pick to get Justin Fields as he had slid out of the top 10. That is gutsy, that is all in, and that is an organizational Kahuna move because, as we said earlier, the message to the Bears fans now is we've got this. Okay, quit asking us to fire Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. It's not happening. We're going to see what Justin Fields can be. We're going to take our shot here that we have a franchise quarterback that can lead us to where we want to go. If it doesn't work out, then the next time they draft a quarterback, it won't be Ryan Pace or Matt Nagy working for the team. Or maybe team president Ted Phillips. He may be tied to this one too.
Yeah, maybe. You're right. It's a gutsy pick. It really is. And, it's, for a team, they need a difference maker at this position. Something to get the city to rally around their team a little bit and feel faith in the quarterback and all of that. But, yeah, overall, big-time move. But Ryan Pace, really, he's the one that – big kahunas there to pull that off last night for sure. I think the next one I'm going to go to is, and we haven't talked about it, I want to spread the wealth in the conversation here, is the Raiders and their pick, with Leatherwood at 18. That to me was, I thought Leatherwood would be going in the first round. I had him in Baltimore later in the first round. I wasn't sure. I didn't think he'd go that early. I mean, that was, I think, a pretty big-time gutsy pick by them. We know they needed an offensive lineman for sure. They've let a lot go out the door here with trades and the Trent Brown and Rodney Hudson and all of that, Gabe Jackson. Leatherwood fits the mold of what they had. He's maybe the best run blocker in the draft. So that's where you got to be excited. They're going to be able to put him at guard right now and just go run people over and open up holes, and he'll be fine. He has the potential to be a really big-time franchise tackle. He does. His pass protection was a little less than what you would like, but that was a gutsy pick, maybe overdrafting a little bit, but there was a big need there for their football team, and they believe in the guy.
I'll say the Philadelphia Eagles in jumping up to get DeVonta Smith. When you consider big picture what they did, dropping from 6 to 12, picking up a first-rounder next year, assuming the risk that the Dolphins would take DeVonta Smith or someone else before the Eagles could get him would take him, and then having that plan to jump the Giants when it became evident that the Giants were all in on DeVonta Smith. They get a guy who weighs 166 pounds, but you know what? They had Deshaun Jackson. They're not concerned about having a short and skinny Slim Reaper wearing number 3 most likely for the Philadelphia Eagles unless he can get number 6 away from Khalil Tate.
Yeah, it is. It's a big-time move for them as a football team. He's a star, there's no doubt, and the only thing is that skinny aspect that you talked about. But as I said earlier, I know there's some teams that had DeVonta Smith as the number 1 receiver on the board and were just blown away by what he can do. And I think the Eagles were probably one of those football teams. So good for them, and they got somebody for Jalen Hurts to air it out to for sure now. I mean, I kind of want to go with almost 2 guys here to cheat a little bit. I don't mean to cheat, but it's just like I want to go with the two pass rushers at the end. The Saints and the Bills. Those were Kahuna picks to me. First off, let's just start with the Saints. Peyton Turner, you talked about. Most teams had him like in a mid-round draft pick. I don't know if he was that low for me. I think he's a guy I looked at as to be a mid to late second-round pick. But, yeah, that's a gutsy pick because I don't think anybody had him going in the first round. There is some traits there as far as being a big, twitchy athlete. He's a lot like Marcus Davenport, honestly. The way he's built and the way he plays, it reminds me of him. So that was kind of unexpected, and, that'll be under a microscope. And I want to do the same thing with the Bills, if you don't mind, Mike, just with Gregory Rousseau. Because, again, it's a projection pick. There's nothing you can watch on film to go, oh, this guy's just a killer and dominates. There's not that. It's a little bit more like a Danielle Hunter, right? Who I think at LSU, his senior year or last year there, he had 1 sack and a half. This guy is long. He's not involved in every play, doesn't dominate all that way, opted out last year. The year before that when he did play, I know he had like 8 or 9 sacks, but they weren't like, oh, he
15 and a half.
Either way, sorry. Either way, I don't care. This is not very few of them were just beating the guy, Mike. Like it was all like, hey, I'm standing here. The quarterback's got a lot of time to throw. Somebody else missed the sack, and I'll go get him now. Or, hey, the quarterback's been back there for 7 seconds, and now I finally got there to get the sack. I think Booger McFarland kind of made those points last night. There were underwhelming sacks. So it is a projection, and I think a gutsy pick by the Bills, but they need that position.
He is a giant.
He is.
I was amazed to see him next to Michael Senora, from the NFL league office who's about my height, and he towered over him.
Right.
5'10", 5'11"-ish. I don't know if I'm shrinking yet or not. And then, as David Shaw, the Stanford coach, pointed out during the NFL Network coverage, as Rousseau walked out and he's up on the elevated platform and fans are down there reaching for him, he was able to slap their hands without bending over. That's how long his arms are.
Yeah, that's why you take him.
This guy to Buffalo, it could be interesting to see what happens.
Be.
All right, for me, since you went with 2 and since I got the last pick, I'm going with 2.
Good.
The bang-bang back-to-back running backs from Najee Harris to Pittsburgh and then Travis Etienne to the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're going to use these guys, I'm fine with it. But you got to use them. Otherwise, you're wasting a first-round pick. You could have gotten a running back later. So it's a gutsy move to put any running back name on a card. The Steelers did it for need. The Jaguars did it for luxury because it was just last year, as we said earlier, they got James Robinson undrafted. So all-in moves to try to help their passing game with the 2 best running backs. And it was a question whether either of them would go in round 1, but now both of them go. I wonder if the Steelers hadn't taken Najee Harris, would the Jaguars have taken him or Etienne?
I would think Etienne was their cup of tea just because of, he comes from an offense that's similar to what Urban Meyer ran himself, and I just think he fits that mold a little bit more where I think Pittsburgh's looking to get, hey, Big Ben, get underneath the center. We're going to pull a guard here and let Najee Harris follow him up in the hole. I think he fits that style a little bit more. So, yeah, I think both teams got what they want with that position.
And there was very little secret in league circles about Najee Harris going to the Steelers. If anybody wanted him, they could have jumped him.
No. Any other ones jump out to you? Like I wanted the Baltimore Ravens, their picks at the end of the first round.
The fact that they didn't trade down.
Right.
They used them.
They got a receiver who can do a little bit of everything. And he was a tough eval because 2 years ago he was awesome. Last year it was kind of just like eh. And I think you heard last night, a lot of people think COVID affected him and all those type of things. But I love the second pick. Jason Owe off the edge for that defense. To me, the Ravens just added Leonard Floyd to their defense, and I think that sounds pretty good if you're a Ravens fan.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.